What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90, and today it is time for the Week 33 Premier League predictions. As always, we've got tons of uploads coming on the channel because there is so much football on nowadays. Now, I want to give a shout out to Garrett Bower, a Manchester City fan who did correctly predict that City would win in the last round of fixtures. And the reason also that I picked this comment is because of the reply from my man Voxy Lol. Basically, he didn't like the prediction of Man City winning and thought he'd let him know by giving him a piece of his mind in the comments, calling him a clown, saying that Liverpool would win. And, well, as we know, Liverpool went and lost 4-0. So if you guys want to be featured in the next episode of the Premier League predictions, then please leave your comment down below for what you think the scores are going to be for this week, Week 33 in the Premier League. And please do, while you're down there, drop a like, as it really does help the channel. And you guys have been killing it with hundreds of likes on the recent videos. So please do smash a like. Let's break 100 likes once again. Now, before we get into Week 33, let's take a little look back at Week 32. It was a better week than the week before, it does have to be said. Kicking it off, we had Aston Villa versus Wolves. I predicted a 2-1 away win to Wolves, and it ended up being just a 1-0 win. But I think Wolves definitely could have scored a few more than that. The next fixture, Watford up against Southampton. I really thought Watford would do a bit better. I think the break for Watford wasn't very good, and they're kind of struggling now. I predicted a 1-1 draw, and it was a 3-1 away win to Southampton. Next up was Crystal Palace versus Burnley. It, of course, was always going to be a low-scoring affair. I thought Palace would nick it at the end and get a 1-0 win, but it was actually Burnley who did that and got the classic Burnley 1-0 win. Coming up after that, we had Brighton up against Manchester United. I predicted a 2-0 win to United, and they did one better. It was a 3-0 win. They're looking very, very good nowadays. And then after that, very proud of this one, was Arsenal versus Norwich, and I basically said that no matter what form Arsenal are in, they should never lose against Norwich at the Emirates. I predicted a 3-1 home win to Arsenal. Got the goals right, slightly wrong in the distribution. Arsenal won 4-0. Now, coming up, again, another one I'm really proud of, Bournemouth versus Newcastle. Bournemouth were actually the bookies' favourites to win this game. I predicted a 2-1 away win to Newcastle, and it ended up being a 4-1 away win to Newcastle, so pretty decent there. Coming up after that, we have Everton up against Leicester. Now, I swear, I remembered predicting this a 2-1 home win to Everton, but I looked at my notes and I didn't. It was a 1-1 draw that I'd written down in the end, but I did think that Everton might have got something from that game, and it did actually end 2-1 to Everton to continue Leicester's pretty poor return after the restart. Will they get top four? It really is hanging in the balance at this point. And then after that, we had West Ham Chelsea. Now, this was the real shocker of the week. I predicted a 2-0 away win to Chelsea. Chelsea did put 2 past West Ham, but West Ham scored 3 to win 3-2, and it deserved 3 points in the end for West Ham, to be honest. After that, we had Sheffield United Tottenham. I definitely gave Tottenham too much credit. I gave them a 2-1 away win, and Sheffield United won that one 3-1. And then Manchester City versus Liverpool, I predicted a 2-2 draw, and Man City actually scored all 4 of those goals that I predicted, winning 4-0. So a crazy week of fixtures. Let's aim to do even better this week. Kicking it off, we have Norwich up against Brighton. I think Norwich, we all know they're going to go down, but Brighton, this is a very, very important game for them, and I suppose very important for Norwich if they can get something out of it, but I think Brighton are just looking a little bit better. I don't think Brighton will get relegated. I think there's just too many other teams that are looking more in trouble than they are. Brighton have been playing some decent football minus their performance against Manchester United. I'm going to go for a low-scoring game. I don't know, maybe if Norwich are going to score, it probably is home against Brighton. But Brighton, apart from their performance against Manchester United, have been fairly solid at the back. So I'm going to stick with my original prediction of a 1-0 away win to Brighton. But this could be a 1-1 draw. I think, like I said, if Norwich are going to score, I think at home to Brighton is a pretty good shout. But I don't know. We'll go with my original gut instinct on that one. The next one is a very, very tough one to predict. It was Leicester up against Crystal Palace, and I was debating whether or not to give it a 1-1 draw, given that Leicester's form isn't that great. And if you look at the head-to-head record, minus the 2-0 win Leicester got against Palace last year, the 3 or 4 games before that, Palace beat Leicester in all of them. So they do like playing them. And Crystal Palace are one of those teams that have a weirdly better away record than home record. And Leicester have really been struggling, not only since the restart, but actually this year, since January in the Premier League. So I was very tempted to go for a 1-1 draw, and maybe I'll be kicking myself, but I just feel like Leicester have to get a move on eventually. They got lucky with Chelsea dropping points against West Ham to therefore stay for them in 3rd spot. So I think they're going to finally take the opportunity that they have to get top 4, and try at least, and get a 2-1 win over Crystal Palace. But it's going to be very, very close, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see a little bit of an upset here. Now, the next game, probably the easiest one of the week to predict, in my opinion. Manchester United up against Bournemouth, who are struggling very, very much. Manchester United looks solid, and you know what's great for teams like Manchester United? And, Man United are really the only ones that this applies to, because they're the only one. I suppose Wolves as well, Man United and Wolves, because all the other teams that are going for top 4 and have something to play for in the league aren't in Europe anymore. But instead of Man United and Wolves having to play Premier League, then Europa League, then Premier League, then Europa League, they can focus on the Premier League. The season will end, and their position will be determined, and then they have the round robin European tournaments in August, I believe. So Man United are going to win this game, and I think it's going to be very comfortable. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Manchester United, leaving Bournemouth in a very, very dark position. Now, the next game, very, very, very tough to predict, is Wolves against Arsenal. Initially, I did give Wolves a 2-1 home win, but I think I've got to give Arsenal some credit. Their form since the restart, minus the first two, Man City and Brighton, that was a little bit frustrating. But since then, they've been looking pretty good. And I do think both teams are going to score in this game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. If I had to pick a winner, I would back Wolves in their home form, because Arsenal's away form isn't the best. Arsenal's form in general is very, very difficult to predict unless they're home against Norwich. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw and sit on the fence in this one. Now, the next game is Chelsea up against Watford. Chelsea coming off of a loss against West Ham, really not ideal. And Watford coming off of a loss against Southampton, again, really not ideal. But I do think Chelsea will have enough. They've got not more to play for than Watford, because Watford are in a relegation battle, but I just think at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea will get the better of Watford, because Watford are in worse form than Chelsea are. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Chelsea. And then again, it would be typical Chelsea to go and lose this game, like they did to West Ham, like they've done to Bournemouth many times in the past. Chelsea play really well in the big games and then just can't beat the teams at the bottom of the table, it seems. But I do think they'll get the job done here at Stamford Bridge. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win, as I said. Now, the next game, Burnley up against Sheffield United. This has draw written all over it. Would it be 0-0? Would it be 1-1? I don't know. You take your pick. I'm going to go for 1-1 between these two teams. Sheffield United will be buoyed by their victory over Tottenham Hotspur, and Burnley will be lifted by their away victory against Crystal Palace. So both teams coming into this in better form than perhaps previous weeks. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, because I think it'll be low scoring. They're both pretty solid defensively, and Burnley games are just usually quite dead, aren't they? Let's be honest. Now, the next game is Newcastle up against West Ham. West Ham, dreadful since the restart, minus their performance against Chelsea in the previous week. But in fairness to West Ham, they have a pretty good record against Chelsea, only losing 1 of now the previous 6 meetings against Chelsea. And Newcastle at home, some of the best home form in the league. Not only did they beat Bournemouth, they destroyed Bournemouth, and it definitely could have been more than 4 goals, that's for sure. But Newcastle at St. James's Park, West Ham away form, it all adds up, in my opinion, to a Newcastle win. I think having scored 3 against Chelsea, West Ham will be able to score 1, because Newcastle aren't necessarily the most solid team in the league by any means, but they are a very, very good team at home. So I think the win will be, although I've got the score quite close here, I think it will be comfortable for Newcastle. Maybe even a 2-0 win, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Newcastle. Now, the next game is Liverpool up against Aston Villa. This is a very, very interesting game. It's a very, very interesting dynamic, because Liverpool essentially have nothing to play for. Aston Villa have everything to play for, but there is such a gulf in quality. So it's going to be a very, very tough one. I think Liverpool will be professional about it. They're going to field their strongest team. You know, it's not like they're going to play a weaker team. I think they will still play their main men, because they want to win as many games as possible. They want to try and get as many points as possible. Salah himself will want to try and go for the golden boot, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Liverpool, because, you know, it's not like they're going to take it easy on them at all, Liverpool. They're going to try their best to get this win. Now, coming up after that, we have Southampton up against Manchester City. Again, Southampton, Man City, not a lot to play for. Southampton aren't going to get relegated. City aren't going to fall below second, and they're not going to win the league, obviously. So I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game. You know what? Let's go out there. Let's go... no, I'll keep it here. Do I think Southampton can score 2? I don't think so. So I'll keep it to 4-1 to Manchester City. I was tempted to change it to 4-2 to Manchester City, just to throw a crazy prediction out there, but City looked really, really lethal against Liverpool, and I think they're going to continue that away from home. Kevin De Bruyne looks as good as always. He has to be the player of the year, doesn't he? He's been phenomenal. And now the final game, it's Tottenham up against Everton. Tottenham coming off of a loss to Sheffield United, and Everton coming off of a win against Leicester. So, if it was at Goodison Park, I'd say 2-0 to Everton, I think. I'd say, or maybe 2-1 to Everton. But this is at Tottenham's ground. I think it's going to be a close game. Everton, their games are usually quite tight. 1, 2, maybe 3 goals at a push if there's going to be a winner. But I think this is going to be a very, very close affair. And I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Harry Kane to score and Richarlison to score. The main men. Why not? We'll give those the goals this time around. So Tottenham 1, Everton 1. Now that is going to do it for this episode of the Premier League predictions. If you did enjoy it, as I said, be sure to leave a like. And if you want to get featured in the next episode like Garrett did, then leave your predictions down in the comments below. And if there is usually a freak result in the week, like, I mean, I suppose this week, one of the freak results was Man City beating Liverpool. A lot of people seem to think that Liverpool would win. If you predict that in the comments, I'll probably be more likely to pick your comment. So go out there, try something bold, and I hope to see you all in the next video very soon.